You are going to love today. We have a very special guest, Todd Casey. Todd, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Eric. Honored to be here.
So Todd, in case you don't know this or if you haven't seen this, Todd did the definitive book on still life. Do you have a copy nearby?
I have it right around the corner if you want to
grab
it.
Okay. Right. So maybe I'll tell you, don't get up now. I'll tell you what, when we come back, we're going to talk for a second, and then we're going to go off, do some announcements. When we come back, you can show the book. This is the best art book I've ever seen in my life. I am not blowing smoke. And so we'll talk to Todd. Todd, what are you going to do today?
Today, what I want to show is one of, I think, the most important lessons is just value is the underlying structure of a painting. And to master value is really to kind of the almost like the foundation of everything that you do with color. So what I'm going to do today is do a little demonstration of showing value as it relates to color, so then you can apply that to a painting.
Excellent. Okay, we're excited about that. Okay, go get that book, and we'll be back in a couple of minutes.
Great.
All right. So today is day number 164 live, which means every day since the beginning of the coronavirus quarantine, we started about a week after it started. Every day we've been giving you video samples to teach you, to help you get enthused about, to inspire, to get enthusiastic about art, to learn to do art. Every day we've been giving you videos at 3 p.m. and I've been on here every day for you at noon. And the goal is to keep you focused on your art and on doing something that's fun and good for you, rather than focusing on all the negative stuff that's going on around you, right? Okay, so that's why we're here. We have some announcements today. First off, the winner of the book that I announced yesterday, my book, Make More Money Selling Your Art. The winner of that book is Doug Castella from Whitefish, Montana. All right, Doug, congratulations. Now, Doug, one thing you have to understand is when you read this book, you're going to have a lot of options. You're going to have really dozens and dozens and dozens of options of things that you could do. Read the book, find the one thing that gets you the most excited, and do that one thing. Don't try to do everything all at once. Everybody gets overwhelmed when they're trying to learn how to market their art. You don't have to do a lot of things all at once. You pick one thing, you master that one thing, you get good at it, you start seeing results, and then you keep doing it. And then while that's happening, then you pick up on another thing, and then eventually another thing, and so on. So don't get overwhelmed. But this book is the book that will help you get to the next level in terms of selling your art. So congratulations. Today, we're giving away a Plein Air Magazine digital subscription. Plein Air Magazine is the #1 selling art magazine in America, #1 at Barnes & Noble. Not Barnes & Noble, the biggest distributor in America, biggest store in America for magazines, #1 in the art and photography category. We're really happy and thrilled and proud of that. And so we love it, and we want you to enjoy it, so you can get it at Barnes & Noble. But you can win today for comments. Tell us where you're from. We like it, especially if you're from out of the country, to tell us where you're from. Make a comment, and then we will randomly choose from the comments and give away a digital subscription. And you should know our digital subscriptions have 20% more content than our print subscriptions. And that's because we have lots of images and lots of stories that we can't always use. And so we'll put them in the digital. So most people end up subscribing to both. Speaking of subscribing, right there, if you're watching on YouTube, there's a button that says subscribe. And last I looked, I was at about 68,000 subscribers. And I'd like to hit 100,000, because if I hit 100,000, YouTube will send me a plaque, and that'll go on my ego wall, right? Along with the fastest growing company plaques, 5 years in a row, fastest growing company in America. And so that would be cool if you help me get to 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. Of course, on Instagram, Facebook, please do following, and Twitter and everything else. It's just Eric Rhoads, Rhoads. Oh, there it is. And you could also go to my website, ericrhoads.com, where I've got lots of stuff about all the things we do. Now, speaking of all the things that we do, we are in the publishing business, but I'm an artist. And when I was an artist, I kept finding things that I wanted, things that I wished would occur. You know, for instance, I used to buy art videos, and I thought, nobody's doing interviews on art videos. I want to get in the head of the artist, and still, so I started doing art interviews when I started doing videos, and nobody was doing like superb production quality. I mean, you know, like high definition. You know, so we built a sound stage. We hired some Hollywood guys, and we have really phenomenal production values for our videos. And we've been doing that for a few years now. But we have all kinds of things that we do. We make magazines, we do newsletters. I'm trying to find the slide that talks about everything we do, but there it is. So, I mean, there's just a sampling of a lot of the things we do in the art business: products, videos, marketing, training. We have a channel on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire, which has lots of interviews, lots of art, lots of documentaries, things like that. There's a lot of free content there. There's also our videos are on there. You can purchase and watch there. So anyway, if you want to just get a feel for everything we do, go to streamlinepublishing.com/everything, and that will help you find out what we're going to be doing. Now, I want to tell you also that today at 3 p.m., we have a video sample for you. And the video sample today is Ryan S. Brown, and it's called Painting Classical Portraits. And the way to find these, if you're new to us, and there's new people every day, so my apologies for repeating myself to those of you who've been tuning in. The way to find it is you go to YouTube or Facebook and search the term Streamline Art Video, and that's where you find them. And if you subscribe, then they will come to you automatically. But I love this. We did a live workshop while Ryan was teaching this. We had a live audience, and he did this portrait. It was so much fun to see it come together, and we ended up creating this product, Painting Classical Portraits. And you're going to get a feel for some of that today at 3 p.m. from Ryan S. Brown. Ryan also has another DVD out, which is called Painting the Figure in Nature, where he's combining outdoor painting, painting a figure, how to place a figure, and so on. And so that's his other video. So anyway, that's cool. So the other thing I want to tell you about is we have this massive event coming up, and it's called Realism Live. And we have a huge number of faculty members. I think they're all listed here now, but there may be a couple more that have just signed on. Yes, there are. So that is October 21 through 24th. It's virtual, meaning you can watch in the safety of your home. It is 4 days, plus there's a 5th beginner's day. And this covers all the different subject matter that we as painters and drawers want to do. So it's figure painting, portrait painting and drawing, still life, landscape, architecture, lots of different things. And so this is really a whole conference that encompasses everything. We've already got over 1,200 people signed up. It's going to be a huge event. It's October 21 through 24. And the deadline is the 30th of September for the $200 savings. The price is going up as of September 30th. And so you want to get in on Realism Live, just go to realismlive.com. We have an incredible lineup of people. And let me just go through these real quickly for you. GRAYDON PARRISH, a legend. Joshua LAROCK. Well, quite frankly, I'm not going to say a legend because all of these people that we've picked are legends. They're just tremendous. Rose Franson, Daniel Sprick, Juliet Aristides is going to be teaching drawing. Daniel Gerhartz, Victoria Herrera, Daniel Graves from the Florence Academy in Florence. And by the way, many of our instructors are coming from other countries. Jeff Legg, Kathy Odom, Kathy Anderson, Conor Walton from Ireland, Williams A. Schneider, Tony Serenai, Mark D'Alessio, Jean Stern is going to be doing segments on history. I did a thing yesterday with some of the people who had attended Plein Air Live, and they said they loved the fact that we incorporated history. Stefan Bauman, Cornelia Hearns, Todd Casey, as we're going to talk to and meet today, and Jesus Emmanuel Villarreal. And so that's what we've got so far. And we have a few more slots that we're going to be filling, but it's 4 days and possibly a 5th day. Go to realismlive.com. All right, now let's get to one of the faculty members who's going to be teaching on Realism Live, Todd Casey. Welcome, Todd.
Hey, thanks again for having me, Eric. Nice to see you.
And you were in your studio where?
We just moved right before the pandemic to Reading, Connecticut.
Well, Reading is a world famous artist community. There's Raymond Kinsler lived there. Kathy Anderson lives there. John Howard Sandin lives there. There's some incredible people. So you found a place where you can become part of a community. That's neat.
Yeah, in a neighboring town too, Ridgefield is pretty.
Ridgefield, yeah. Oh, that's what I was thinking. Ridgefield. I guess that's what it was. Yes.
Reading's like known for the Mark Twain Library. So.
Oh, is that all right? Okay, cool. So, Todd, talk to us about what you're going to tell us today, and then we'll go on into that. But first, I ask you to go get your book. Would you show it? I don't have one here. The Art of Still Life. Now, hold it sideways so they can see how thick that is. Look at that. It is a phenomenal book. It's one of the, okay, you can show it, maybe flip through it a little bit, but I get hundreds, literally hundreds of art books in the mail that they want us to review. And I called Todd because I wanted to get to know him, but I told him that this was actually the best art book I've ever seen. I kid you not. I'm not blowing smoke. I don't have any skin in the game. I don't get any money from this. He went through so much detail and so many examples, not only his work, but other work, but showing how things are done in the depth that I've never seen before. So Todd, congratulations on that.
Thank you. I appreciate the kind words too.
I know you spent a couple of years of your life doing it.
I wish I could say it was a couple of years, but I wrote it in 4 months.
Did you really?
Yeah. I mean, as a teacher, I've been teaching for a long time, and it was taking all that information. So it'd be hard to take out all the time spent teaching, but it was really putting it, I mean, really what I wanted to give in the book was just the book that I wish I had when I was a student, because there was no still life books out there, I think, that really could kind of hit everything that we were doing. And I studied with Jacob Collins, but I also studied with Max Ginsberg. And there were kind of two approaches, the direct and indirect approach. Right. So my attempt in this book was to just kind of give a gamut of how beautiful still life can be, how to approach it, kind of the 6 concepts that need to go into any painting. So
where's the best place to buy that?
Hard to say. I think it just kind of sold out. So Amazon doesn't have it anymore. Barnes & Nobles may have it. Strand in New York City, I know I signed about 20 copies for them. They may have it. But I've been getting a lot of emails recently asking if I had any books. I do have a handful, so if anybody can't, they could reach out. But we are going to go into the second printing.
Okay, and what is your email, Todd?
ToddMcasey@gmail.com.
Okay, I'll just put it on the screen for everybody real quickly in case somebody wants to get that. It is, I kid you not, it's the best. And I talked to the publisher and they said, this never happens. We've never had an artist who has sold so many books so fast. They said, we normally print 5,000 to go through about 2 years. And you're in the second printing, third printing?
Second, yeah. I mean, I'm blessed that it did so well. And the feedback's been so positive, especially the glowing review that you gave. But yeah, 5,000 is our first print. And I think Amazon gobbled up so much of it, and they kept the price so reasonable that with the pandemic and everything hitting at the right time, it and then the word of mouth kind of got around, and so I'd be happy to try to help anybody out find a copy. And but the new printing should be. It says it's going to be up on September 9th, but I don't know where Amazon got that number from.
Yeah. Well, I am encouraged to do still life. I should have brought them in. I found these fabulous giant sunflowers. The middle is about that big around. There's a sunflower field near here. We're going to go visit today. And look what I just found. Fall
Awesome.
color.
Yeah.
It's the very beginning. It's not really very bright yet, but so I want to do a still life with the color of the leaves and the sunflower. And I learned so much from your book, and there's so much more to learn. So tell us, let's go into your lesson now, and I'm going to kind of pop off the screen and let you take over.
Sure. Thank you. Again, I'm honored to be here. So I appreciate sharing any knowledge that I can. So one of the most important things that I've found in my teaching is that it's hard for students to see chroma and color together. So for example, when we see something like a lemon, it appears as, it's hard to tell what the value is. And value is a structure under every painting. So today what I want to talk about is just value as it relates to color. So I brought my color wheel over here too, and I'll explain what's happening. And then how I apply it to a painting, which is just right over here.
Okay, excellent.
So are we going to go back and forth and you're going to talk, or do you want me to just monologue?
No, you just go for it, and I may make a comment, or I may read a comment or something from the audience.
Great, yeah, and I'd be happy. I as a teacher, I always kind of take little breaks to answer questions as well. So feel free to read them off. So this is a color. This is just a value scale. And
by the way, I will interrupt you. I'm sorry about that. I like to really bring it down to beginner level, because there are people who tune in who don't know what a value is, or they don't know what the word chroma is. So try to explain those kinds of things at that level, if you would.
Yeah, no problem. So when we break color down, a lot of artists use the Munsell system, or even Gamblin talks about the 3 dimensions of color as well in their 3-dimensional, I forget what it's called, the color space. And what we're doing is we're taking it off of a 2-dimensional wheel into a 3-dimensional concept. So we can then break it down into hue, value, and chroma. Hue means kind of what Roy G. Biv is. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, violet, just like we have on the wheel over here. So we can kind of break color down that way. And then we break it down from lightness to darkness, which is what value means. And then chroma means that it's the intensity or the saturation of the color. And that just means you could have something like a lemon like this, which is really high chroma and really, really bright is how it appears. And then we can have something that just, as a lemon would decay, you would have a lower chroma yellow. So with those kind of 3 dimensions of the color, we would build a color sphere. It's actually 3 dimensions, but I think it would be a bit complicated to kind of get too far down that road.
Yep.
Now, value is kind of the first step, which if you were to, and everyone can do this too if you have any kind of cell phone, is just take a photo of anything and then turn it to black and white, and you'll see a gradation of light and dark. So some artists, some humans are colorblind too, and they say they see just black and white, but we usually have 3 cones. We have more than 3 cones, but we have 3 different kinds of cones in our eyes that make up the kind of visual spectrum that we see. So under every color is a value, though. And it's important to think about color in relation to value, because if you want to get a full range of values, let's say to render this lemon in space as we see it, how do you go from light to dark? And what I'm going to do is just demonstrate. And actually what we could probably do, Eric, to make it a bit interactive too, is I'm going to put a couple colors on here and then hold them up. And then actually I'll put them on my palette, and then I'll ask what value you think it is. Because generally what happens with chroma is we can't tell what value it is. And value, that it's important to find that, because then we make a light and a dark version, which is sometimes referred to as a color string.
Now I make a pair of glasses we call value specs, and they're you can put them on, and it's kind of gimmicky, but I was out painting yesterday or the day before, I guess the day before, and I was having trouble with my values because my brain was telling me it was a certain value, and I put the specs on. I realized everything was much darker than I had it, or much lighter than I had it. And
Right.
so having a tool like that can really help.
Yeah, and you paint outside, I imagine, a lot, right? Your landscape painting?
I do a lot indoors and outdoors.
Yeah, so outdoors are there's just so much light everywhere that our cones and rods are stimulated. So cones show us color and rods show us kind of lightness and darkness of it, which is why in like the middle of the night, if you got up to go get something from the fridge and you didn't turn the lights on, your rods would start to stimulate, and then they would start to work, which is kind of the way that a camera works too. When you point to the shadows, it focuses on that, and then when you point to the light, it refocuses.
Yep.
Similarly, we're kind of experiencing the same thing. So what happens is you can take a color, and this is me doing a test on a piece of acetate of just what cobalt teal is. So I find out what the value is of cobalt teal, which is right about here. That's it right out of the tube. And then the question is always, how do I go lighter and darker from there? And that's when we kind of navigate over to our color wheel, which I'll talk about in a minute. So under every color is a value. So let's do a little test here to just see if how the audience can see the colors.
Okay, you guys get ready to put your answer into the comments because we're going to have to do it fast.
Cool. And I'll start with something just pretty common. So this is raw sienna. And again, our perception is also a big part of this as well. As you were saying, Eric, you were fooled into thinking that something was a certain value, but context also plays a big part of it. So I put it right there in the center. You can see right there, yep. That's raw sienna.
Yep.
Out of a tube, what does everyone think that value is?
Okay, you guys put your guess in. You want to hold up the value scale and hold a value scale up, and then now they can look at it.
Right.
Okay, and the numbers are white is 0 or 1.
We can do white is 1,
okay.
And then black is 9.
All right. Okay, so let's see if we got. Okay, we got 4, 6, 4, 4, 4, middle 5, 3. I think it's a 7 or an 8.
Cool. Yeah. So if you do create a value scale, and you could do this by either putting it on I just go to the paint store and then take white and black and make 9 transitions.
What a great idea.
And then just put it on the back of a paint stick. And then what you can do is you can use this now. Now I have one that's coated, so it's a little easier. But what you can do is take the paint and then paint it onto 3 squares. And then squint your eyes down.
Oh, wow.
And which one
is reflecting? Wow. So what is it, a 4?
Yeah.
Wow. Most of you guys were right. I was way off.
Right. And it's funny because even sometimes the experienced painter, which I know you do a lot of painting, is fooled because, as Joseph Albers talked about, color, and Michel Chevray talks about, is color has to do with the context in which it's surrounded by. So it's hard for us to kind of gauge, and also how much light is in the room. You know, if we had a different Kelvin bulb, it may affect kind of how we perceive it. So that's a neutral color, that a semi-neutral color in raw sienna that we couldn't get correct, right? I think a few of the audience members got it correct.
Yep, several did.
That's fantastic. So when it gets to chroma, it gets even harder to see. So what I'm going to do is just squeeze out some cad green pale here, which is actually, I love this color. And then what I do, because this is coated, is I'll just wipe it down. I can just wipe it down and it'll come right off. And I can use both sides too. So we have cadmium green pale, right?
Yeah. Okay, guess everybody put your guess in.
Right, and it kind of, if you think about, some clues could be to just think of what the value of the palette is, right? Because that's actually a part of our perception, that if I had a white palette, I would know right away that it's darker than white, right?
Yeah.
If I had a black palette, I'd know that it's lighter than black. But if I
Yeah.
have a mid-tone like this, sometimes it'll actually help my perception because I know this is maybe about a 5.
Yeah.
And then I can see that it's lighter, so it already takes and pulls down kind of my not that I would think it was like a value 8 anyway.
All right. Okay, here are the guesses. 4, 2, 1, 2, 3, 3, 3, 3, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2 or 3, 3, 4, 3, 3, 3. I think it's a 3. What do you?
Right. I think you're right. And sounds like you have an audience, a good amount of people that are participating as well. So
There you
fantastic.
got a couple hundred right now.
Sweet. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in.
By the end of the day, it'll be 4 or 5,000.
That's scary. Amazing.
No pressure.
Yeah, no, exactly. You're supposed to lie and say like 20 people.
There's not going to be anybody on.
Just my mom, right?
Yeah. Hi, Mom.
So there we go. And as you can see, with the camera, it actually kind of brings it right down. It's a value 3.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
you guys that said 3, congratulations. Okay, we have somebody who's writing in Arabic, but we don't know what he said. I don't have a way to translate on here. Yeah, people all around the world, Todd. Again, no pressure, but Egypt, Norway, India, South America. Wow, everywhere.
That's awesome.
It's pretty cool.
That's humbling, man. That's so cool. Again, thanks for tuning in. So what the dilemma is when we perceive now what we see. So I have a gray sphere here, right? I have a black sphere, and then I have a white sphere. Oh, there we go. So the question is, how do you take values? If you were to just stay in value at this moment and say, how do I take just value and then render this sphere from light to dark? How do we figure that out? Well, you can start with a grayscale. So for instance, if we were to take that white sphere, which I'm going to hold up, and then I said, well, how do I make transitions of values? Let's say I had 9 of those values. How do I paint this now? Well, light actually goes pretty much right up with the value scale. So when I bend this, when I have stronger light, you can usually see this even more. It actually kind of creates a value scale. So you can see that the light, as it's closer to my light source, which is right up here, as it gets closer to the light source, I'm going to go up in value. And then as I move away from the light, I'm going to go down.
So how do you make that? You put it on a piece of tape or something?
I can't tell you my secrets. No, I'm kidding.
All right.
Now, this is just a piece of foam core, and then I glued a piece of acetate on the back. And it's a cool exercise because you can do that with this is a flat color. This is just gray neutral number 5. And when I take my gray sphere, and you'll start to see the form even more now, and then start to bend it.
Wow.
Yeah, and it actually looks very similar to my value scale.
Yeah, it's interesting though, but it also changes. For instance, the high value in that gray all of a sudden got very warm.
Yeah. So it also has to do with the temperature of my bulbs, and I think I'm shooting my light source is about 3 to 3,300 Kelvin, which is on the warmer side.
Yeah,
5,000 Kelvin is daylight, and then 6,800 is on the cooler side.
So why do you choose to have a little warmer light? Is there a particular reason you do that?
I love warm light. Look, I love natural paintings. I've just never had a consistent north light studio. I used to paint at night. I used to work at Ralph Lauren during the day and then come home and paint every night till like 2 in the morning. And at that time, there's just no north light. So
right.
I didn't have the lights that I have now. So as my career has kind of blossomed, I've invested more in my lights and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm going to be playing around more with like 5,000 Kelvin light, which is about daylight. So then we can go into the kind of the black. This is just pure black, right? Well, or a matte black. And then as we bend that too, we can see a gradation of values as well. So
that's fascinating.
Yeah. So what that tells us is that every color, if we look at them on the color wheel, if I can figure out how to get a light and dark version of every color, I know you're getting some glare. If I can get a light and dark version of every color, I should be able to kind of render everything that I see in front of me. So as an exercise, what I'd say is create a value scale and then use it in that manner. Put it on here, find out what the value is of something squeezed out of a tube. And then there's some terminology called tinting, toning, and shading. Tinting would mean adding white to it. So add white to get your lighter parts. Toning would mean that you're adding gray to it. So if you found the right gray value and you added that to a color, it wouldn't change the value of it. It would just kind of suck the chroma out of it. And then if you shading means that you're going lighter and darker with it. Darker with it. Mm-hmm. So if you add black to it, you would be shading it.
So you mentioned Munsell earlier. Do you use a Munsell palette where you put out all the colors, or do you just kind of have a basic palette and you kind of gray things down as you need to?
Yeah, so my palette is actually right here, and I'll hold it up because I get a lot of questions. I paint on an open box M, which is a Pashad box. I used to do landscape painting when I was in grad school in California, and I absolutely love it. And this just is super, super portable. So what I have over here is that I kind of have my gray scale over here. So I use Gamblin, Portland Gray Light, Portland Gray Medium, and Portland Gray Dark. They pretty much can get me an average of a grayscale. And then from there, I go around the wheel and I go titanium white, warm white. I go into my yellows. I then go into my oranges, then my reds, and then my blue, and then green. So if it were a wheel, it would connect back from the green over here back to the yellow.
So it's a chromatic scale.
I pretty much have almost every color. Not every color. I have about 25 colors, and it makes it so that I can pretty much hit almost everything on the color wheel here. So another one of the most important things to do is to take and find out, what every color is out of a tube. So if we were to look at the CIN number on the back of a tube, it's called the color index number. It's actually a better way of gauging how to tell what a color is, because, for instance, Winsor Newton has PR 101, which is pigment red 101, and that's their burnt sienna. But it depends on what brand you're in, because another brand may have a different CIN number. So if you're looking to buy the kind of a tube of paint and you go to the store and they don't have it, if you have the right CIN number, you may get a little bit closer. It's not exactly true because regions could change the iron oxides, such as like raw umber or burnt umber. But so what I would do is I would take my cobalt teal here, which is just a fantastic color. It's PB28. And then I would say, well, where would it lay on this color wheel? So I know it's not towards green over here. It's actually going to be in the blue-green family. And if I plotted it, and then I saw something in front of me that was cobalt teal, I'd say, well, how do I mix a light and a dark version of it, right? The tinting and the shading. And then I grab white and black. So for the cool part of the wheel, I can grab white and black. But when it gets into the warms, white and black are a color, and they're going to shift me through the color wheel if I use them. So I could find, it's almost like a subway map. If I can find something closer to Central Park, right, I'm going to get off there and walk. I'm not going to walk from like Times Square. So you're thinking of it as like, well, this will get me close, and this will get me close. And they're darker than my cadmium lemon. Let's say if I'm mixing up the lemon. So to go darker, I'd find a dark version in this range right here. And that would be something like raw umber.
Okay.
I hope that's not abstract because I'm not showing it.
No, that's fine. I think we get it.
Yeah, so what some artists will do, and that's where kind of the Munsell system comes into play, which is really put into, I believe, play through Frank Riley at the Art Students League, who then handed it down because he was studying Munsell and was using it. He studied with Frank Duveneck. And then Riley handed it down to Michael Aviano, who was his monitor. And then Aviano handed it to GRAYDON, who I think studied with him for about 10 years. Jacob Collins studied with him. So it's almost like there's pieces of the French academic tradition that come through it. And then I'm not exactly sure if it goes back to the French Academy or if Riley kind of was the one to kind of set off that, using the Munsell book as a way to kind of mix your light and dark versions of finding exactly the hue value chroma of a color.
My mentor was a direct student of Riley.
And Pixler, or?
No, his name was Jack Jackson. He's not famous. He's deceased, but you know, he studied under Gamel, Riley, and also under Signorina Simi in Florence. So she was in the lineage of Jerome because her father was, and so on. And then I think Riley was in the lineage of Jerome because of Dubinique, right?
Right.
So,
yeah, through Dubinique and then back to no, it's fantastic. It's fascinating. I love the kind of lineage because I study with kind of Jacob, which is on this side of like up through Riley and then to Jerome and Eng and Delacroix, the French Academy at kind of the peak. But then there's the moment when the Impressionists kind of pushed off of that. Manet kind of broke from that and then started putting paintings, and they were kind of rejected. And then Monet and what's her name? Monet
Marceau.
and was that
Marceau?
Yeah, Berta Marceau.
Yeah.
And so they started to kind of go out into the field, but it's kind of like where these 2 points came together, because at that same time, cadmiums and cobalts came out.
Right.
And before then, we had these old master palettes that were kind of
and also tubes came out about that same time.
Exactly.
Which allowed us to go outdoors.
Yeah, so artists started going outside, which is then where your rods and your cones are just stimulated, which is when the after image kind of comes into it too. But
you know, this is why art history is so important for all of us to read art books and to understand it, to understand the lineage and how one person broke off in another direction and so on. You mentioned GRAYDON PARRISH, who is probably, to my knowledge, is the best, or certainly one of the best in terms of teaching the Munsell system. And he's going to be teaching at Realism Live as well, which you are. So that's pretty exciting.
I'm honored that you're having me. But
we're honored to have you.
Thanks. This is the Michael Aviano's color wheel.
It is. Okay.
Yeah, and I've been in contact with him recently and just talking to him, picking his brain about color. I study with GRAYDON as well. I took his workshop when I was at Water Street when I had no idea what the heck was going on. But since then, I've kind of been able to go back to my notes, and I wish I'd take GRAYDON later because I think it would have helped me. But I took this through Carlos Madrid, who had studied with Michael as well.
Right.
And I went to his house every week for like 3 to 4 hours and created this wheel. And this was, to me, was the best thing I could have done, because I created a neural network of like what colors are next to what on the wheel. So anytime I wanted to grab a dark version of a color, I already kind of knew now that if I'm painting a lemon, well, kind of the analogous colors that are plotted here are maybe yellow ochre, raw sienna, raw umber, burnt umber. And then I can think of when I look at a lemon, because all lemons are different, right? So I have a lemonish sphere here, but then I have this, and this looks now orange next to this, right? But this is more of our perception of what we think a true lemon color would be. There's actually a color called cadmium lemon, right?
Right.
So if I look at this, then to go, okay, I now have these next to each other in my picture, and I see that this one tips more towards the warm side, towards orange. Then I can tip my colors that way, and that's like burnt sienna, raw sienna, burnt umber. But if I see that they tip maybe more towards green or like a straight line out, then I would grab raw umber or possibly something like a sap green if it felt like it tipped towards green. So it helps.
Well, doing the color wheels is so critical, and doing the color charts is critical. When I was learning the Riley palette, we had to mix. It would take us forever to mix that palette, and you know, we'd put clove oil into it because it was such a hassle to mix it that we wanted it to extend. And so he made us operate from that palette. He said, look, at some point you'll be able to have your own, put a few colors out and be able to do it, mixing it yourself, but you have the discipline. So this is a Riley palette. I don't know if this is exactly right, but doesn't look exactly right. But this is kind of the level we had to mix to. And then, and then, you know, it was easy because you kind of find what you need and then dip into it and find it. And then later you got to the point where you could kind of do it by instinct, which I'm sure you're probably doing now too.
Yeah, there was a point in which I used this as a way to kind of pre-mix, which is what you just showed. Those are called value strings or value scales, depending on
Yep.
what you ask. I actually have a flesh palette over here too, which I refer to.
Can you show it to us?
Yeah, do you mind if I just step off to grab it?
No, we don't mind at all. We'd love to see it.
Sure, hold on one sec.
We want to see everything.
I know I have a lot around here too.
And, grab a couple of paintings too, if you've got any handy,
All right.
because we want to see them. I will talk while Todd is away. Let me show you a couple of his paintings. This is a still life. Well, they're all still life, so I'll just show you a couple of them. Absolutely incredible. Where do you get your ideas for your still life?
It's a great question. You know, I think in the book kind of helped me solidify it. My parents, we grew up with a lot of prints of Norman Rockwell around, and I think that kind of stimulated my curiosity for kind of telling stories. So I love to tell stories in my paintings. I love contemplative still lives too, but it's kind of like every painting that I do comes, not all of them, but most of them come from like building a story or an object to then kind of almost go back to being a kid and then like put it back together. So curiosity and, you know, but then there's also just the fascination that we have with objects as well. So
where can we find, somebody's asking where we could find that color wheel. Is it something they can purchase or is it they have to make it themselves?
I don't think you can purchase it, but you could email me and I'd be happy to share.
Yeah, maybe you could teach them, show them a technique on how they can do it or something. Okay.
Yeah, there's a book too. Not that I have to plug the book.
No, you have to plug the book. It's okay. It's in the book. Yeah. Get the book.
Well, it's in the book. It definitely is in the book. And I talk about all this too, which is why it's, you know, it's just an important part of it to kind of really master. Somebody like the Fobs would take this concept and say like, well, if value is really all that we need to play with, we can play with it. We can shift the hue and you can actually make things appear almost not as you would see them in life. But if you had the right value structure underneath it, it would work. So you may see like a blue figure, right, by even Picasso, which will still feel kind of right because it has the right value structure. And the Fobs actually played with this a lot. I believe Matisse was a Fauve, where they're kind of just pushing it into this almost like crazydom, where you'd see like really bloody skies and orange skies and stuff like that.
Right.
And it goes to show that like if you can master your value structure, you can almost put any color on top of it and it's going to work.
Yeah.
Now color can also add another layer to it as well. So if you play with color and you really know what you're doing, then it'll just take it another level up. So,
right. Okay.
So this is my flesh palette that I did, and this is with Carlos, which is based off of. Is that a good shot?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
you can pull it up a little bit there. Yeah. Well, that's good.
So
okay.
What it is just from light to dark, you can get almost any mixture of flesh tones in here. From going light to dark. And one of the most important principles to keep in mind here is just that, like, let's say I start and I say, and GRAYDON does this a lot in his workshops, you kind of find out what a flesh tone is, and they're typically in the kind of maybe red orange-ish, maybe towards yellow, depending on nationality. But for me, I think I'm more of like in the orange family, very low chroma, so I'm more like over here. Well, if I started here and then if I was painting myself in the mirror and then I started here and I said, oh, my cheeks are red, Well, I have to shift to red, and that's north, right? But I would have to move through the wheel. I can't just jump. So I have to go through the string next to it to get to it. And what that does is keep the color consistent, so it's not these like big jumps of icy cool, boom. It makes it so that you kind of ease in and out of every
So
color.
you're looking at if you go up the scale, then you're looking at those as transition colors to make the leap.
Yeah, so the bottom one is yellow, the top one is red, and orange is the middle. But then you have a transition in the middle too. So you can actually paint with this palette too, which is, I think Marvin Madelson does it. Doug Flint does it sometimes. So I did this palette with Doug Flint in a workshop and did a figure, and that's really what kind of made me understand that this is really all about light and dark version, and if I can get the hue, that's awesome.
Yeah, cool.
For the first year of like the atelier, all we do is draw. It's just about value structure, and then after that we go into just painting in light and dark, and that has to do with value structure as well. And then you start to kind of layer in color on top of it. So for almost like 2 years of your training, if you go through an atelier system, you're just pounded with like value, 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 and now we're going to move into color.
All right. Somebody's asking if maybe you would consider putting a PDF of your two wheels together that they could go to your website and get. I might recommend that if you did that, put a link to your book in it. Maybe everybody get your book.
Yeah, it's in the book.
Yeah,
it's such a great reproduction of it.
Super high quality.
Email me, I'll consider it. So here's just some little studies I'm always doing in the studio. This is just like a 1 or 2 hour study. So because I worked in a direct and an indirect way, I'm always just studying as well, kind of objects. And if
you said you work in a direct and an indirect, you want to tell people what that means?
Yeah, so direct way is more of the way somebody like Max Ginsburg would paint. And by the way, Max Ginsburg's lineage is back through like William Merritt Chase, almost in the Hawthorne, Henshey kind of school, because he studied with his dad. So a lot of my palette and why it seems so high chroma is from Max. Jacobs was a little more sometimes earthy or
subdued.
Subdued. So so direct means it's the alla prima concept, where you're kind of in the first is I think what it actually translates to. And what that means is just you're finishing a painting in one sitting. Well, the indirect way would be to draw it first on a piece of paper, transfer it to a canvas, or draw directly onto the canvas, and then build it up in stages, which is more of kind of the way that Bouguereau would do it.
Right.
It's important to kind of understand the division between these two, because you're going to yield different results. And alla prima really came out of the Impressionists, where they were in the field, they were trying to capture the light or the moment, where artists like Albert Bierstadt would go and, or Thomas Cole could extract landscapes from nature with studies and drawings and paintings, bring them back into the studio, and then create their studio paintings from it. So it's kind of two approaches to learning, and I think we're almost dominant right now, I think, in the alla prima. I know I was when I was kind of just taking a class here and there, where I think the indirect could help, because at the end of the day, it should be about how do I make the best painting. It shouldn't be, it would be almost like bragging when it's like, well, how many hours did you spend on that? And you're like, 10 minutes, right? Or an hour. It should really be, did I convey the message, in my opinion?
Right.
Did I convey the message? And am I getting what I want out of it? And does it have the look?
Well, the old thing is, so you're out plein air painting and somebody walks up to you and says, how long did it take you to do that? And you say 20 minutes and 30 years.
Right. Right. And that's kind of what I was saying with the book too, is like,
right.
I'm not bragging by saying I wrote the book in 4 months. I had that kind of idea for the book in my head for so long.
Well, and you did nothing else for 4 months other than work on that book.
I did other things, but
did you really?
Yeah, I was up. Well, I was driving to Boston once a week to teach at Mass Art, and I would lose a whole day. But in that day, I learned how to kind of just think about the book. So the thinking actually helped the writing, because if you sit there and you write all day, and you don't take a break, if you read that like 2 months later, something like Malcolm Gladwell does this as well. If you came back and looked at it a couple months later, you may think, what the heck was I writing? But if you give yourself these breaks to kind of, it's why sometimes I'll wake up in the morning and then be like, I just need more per number, right? And you like figure out the thing that you were just thinking about all day, but you took a break, and now it makes sense.
Yeah. Well, thinking is very important. Well, that's a Herculean effort to pull that off in such a short period of time, quite frankly.
Yeah, and a lot of it was, as you get into, because you're in marketing too, it's just timing for when the book can come out. Because if not, they have to push it off another year.
Right.
So the other thing that kind of lit the fire for me to do it in that time frame as well was that my wife was pregnant, and we knew that the birth of our daughter, we didn't know that her sex at the time, but we knew that she was coming. And at that time I was like, I can't write a book and then take care of a newborn. So I had till, I think it was December 31st or January 1st to get the manuscript in, and she came early.
Oh no.
Yeah, which was beautiful because she was like 3 weeks early. She was due around the 28th, but she decided to come out on December 10th, which was the same day as my wife's birthday, which is just so special.
Wow.
Yeah, and I share my birthday with my dad, so it's just kind of
Really? Well, that's very
magical.
unique.
Yeah, so she came and then she kind of pushed it, and then I got an extension and ended up. But it was good because in that time I kind of did peer reviews and said, like Doug Flint read the book and he gave his critical feedback, which was just fantastic. So,
Yeah. So do yourself a favor, take some advice, and that is that paint your children often at different stages, because you'll blink your eyes and they will graduate from high school and go away.
yeah, you just sent your son off right to college.
Triplets, three at once.
Gosh,
3 at once. Yeah,
wow.
that's why I'm still working. Okay, Todd. Well, we've got maybe 2 or 3 minutes. Do you want to share some final thoughts?
Yeah. Again, I can't stress anymore that value. Just like the foundation of a house. Spend time on those fundamental aspects. Learn to draw really well. Learn value structure really well. Drawing really is value. Is what you're doing, but you're also understanding proportion as well. Spend time there. Incubate in that. Spend time daily if you can do an exercise. From there, if you other exercises that are fun are kind of painting a sphere and then painting a colored sphere, and then work your way into it. So always have a project off over here where you're working on your kind of skill set. But for me, back to the still life thing, I craft my stories, and some of them are just like, I love this beautiful thing, and then I'll just paint it. But then also dig deep and paint from your heart. One of my favorite quotes is by Howard Pyle, and he said to throw your heart into the picture and then jump in after it. I think we should be painting paintings that we really want to do. And as Travis Schlott, I think, famously said, because I say it all the time now, he said, paint the paintings you want to have on your wall, because they're probably going to end up there anyway. So paint from your heart. I think it's gonna come off to as like you love what you do. So these stories are just so post Rockwellian to me that they're just stories. I'm a storyteller. I got a degree as an illustrator.
Have you ever been to the Rockwell Museum?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
it's fantastic. And I love all those Dean Cornwell, Mead Schaefer, Saul Tepper, the Golden Age, Howard Pyle, N.C. Wyeth. It's kind of like the adventure side to me. So,
there's a hotel in Orlando. I can't think of the name of it right now, but the owner is an illustrator collector. And up on the 5th floor of this hotel, there's a floor filled with Howard or with Cornwall originals, and it's like a museum. It's fabulous.
Yeah, and the Met has a Rockwell now. I own a Cornwall sketch. I have a Mead Schaefer painting.
Wow.
And I have a Saul Tepper couple sketches. So anything, just it's like what we do. You probably get yelled at a museum too because we're too close.
Yeah.
So I was able to kind of buy a couple with a credit card and then study them at home. So
Well, that's so valuable that to be able to have something like that to inspire you and to be able to study it. Well, this
Yeah.
has been fabulous, Todd. Do you want to tease everybody with what you're going to do at Realism Live, or have you figured it out yet?
Yeah, I have a demo that I'm probably going to do. It's going to be a smaller painting. We have an hour window. I think 45 minutes is how long I have to paint. So I've already kind of recorded something, and it will be something very similar to what you see here. I think everyone wants to see maybe something in a bowl. The metal is always asked about, kind of how do you paint it?
Yeah.
So I'm going to paint some metal and some fruit. Fruit are always a great place to start as a still life painter. And Cezanne said you can say everything with fruit.
Well, you were fabulous today. I think lots of thumbs up, applause. Everybody loved this. We're going to see you on Realism Live, and thank you, Todd, for doing this. I want to remind everybody to go to Todd's to look for Todd's book. You know, if it's out of stock on Amazon, you can probably buy it and just wait for it to be back in stock. But it is. Let me give your website one more time. It's toddcasey.com/book. Todd, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you having me.
And we appreciate you taking part of your Saturday. We don't like to take people's weekends, but we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye. Okay, that was Todd Casey, and Todd is going to be live on Realism today. And let me see if I can find that slide with him in there. Anyway, Realism today is coming up in October, and you want to make sure that you're part of that because it's going to be pretty cool. So there's Todd and one of his still life paintings, and he's going to do a still life demo. So that's at Realism Live. Remember to sign up before the end of this month to save $200. Already 1,200 people signed up, and it's going to be a phenomenon. It's going to be all online, and it's interactive. So you get a chance to know people, get to know them, and interact with them. And you can ask questions of the faculty. So that's pretty cool. So anyway, that's what we've got today. Today's Saturday. I'm ready to go out. It's a little bit chilly, but it's been a beautiful day so far. I went to the farmer's market this morning. I stopped and I picked up these leaves so I can do a still life painting with them and the sunflowers. And today I've got a buddy here, take a journey up to, it's called Asgard Farm, which is the most beautiful farm in America. And it's got layers and layers of mountains. I'm not going to paint today because he's not a painter. And we're going to go up that way. And that was the home of Rockwell Kent, the artist. So that'll be fun. I'm Eric Rhoads, and thank you for watching. And we'll see you on tomorrow's big celebration, day 165. Take care and have a great day. And remember to put